Alvin, you've defined difference between a so-called theodicy and a defense. How do you differentiate?
Well, when we're thinking about an argument against God's existence from evil, the question might be, why does God permit evil? A theodicy would be an attempt to answer that question and say, well, here's why God permits it for the following reasons. Whereas a defense could be offered by somebody who says, I don't know what God's reasons are. Maybe his reasons are totally beyond us. But at least I can show you that there isn't any contradiction between the existence of evil on the one hand and God's being holy, good, and omniscient and omnipotent on the other hand.
So how do you approach it?
I've always thought it was really hard for us to say what God's reasons would actually be. And if you look at lots of the things that happens, a lot of the things, the Holocaust, for example, what could his reason be? One just doesn't know what the reason is there. So I've instead offered a defense, the free will defense with respect to the problem of evil. And the basic idea is to show, contrary to what some people say, that there's no contradiction in asserting both that God exists and is omnipotent, omniscient, and wholly good, and that there is such a thing as evil.
How do you do that?
Well, the free will defense roughly goes like this. God is omnipotent, but that doesn't mean that he can bring about just every possible state of affairs. So, for example, he can't cause it to be the case that I freely do something or other, freely give, say, $100 to my church. He can't cause me to do that freely. If he causes me to do it, I don't do it freely. So the free will defense says that, first of all, there are possible worlds in which there are free creatures who only do what is right. But maybe those worlds are ones that God can't create. But it could be that for any free creature you pick out, if God were to create that creature and put him in any particular circumstance you mentioned, any possible world you mentioned, that creature would do at least one wrong thing. Any creature like that would suffer from what I called trans-world depravity. Trans-world depravity says only that for any world in which God could have actualized you, you would perform at least one wrong action.
And that, therefore, God could not create a possible world in which there was no evil.
Therefore, he could not create a possible world in which there were free creatures but no evil. Any world he created that had free creatures in it would contain some evil. And maybe that was a good exchange. Maybe the price was right, you might say, from God's point of view.
You and others have eliminated the logical requirement that if you have evil, then you have no God. But you've not dealt with the magnitude and the enormity. So probabilistically, there's probably no God, even though logically you cannot exclude the possibility.
That's certainly, that's the way things have gone. But now the suggestion is right, that the existence of all this evil just makes it vastly unlikely, extremely unlikely that there is such a person as God. Well, I think believers in God have to admit we don't know why God permits those in any detail at least. But the question is whether that makes it unlikely that God does have a reason. I mean, suppose God does have a reason. Is it likely that I would know? Would you and I be the first person he'd tell? Maybe his reasons are totally beyond our ken. Maybe we just don't know enough about what his circumstances are like to have any grasp of what his reasons might be.